Alright, here's a bit of a recording experiment. I hope it'll go well. So I decided to record with a GoPro, not only because that might make it a little more interesting to watch, but also because it's easier to set up here because I have rather limited space. I decided recently to get back into Flintknapping, which is something that I did quite a number of years ago for a while, around 2005, 6-ish, something like that. And I haven't been able to do that for a long time because, well, we've been living in apartments. Here, however, we're lucky enough to have part of the balcony roofed, and I can set up plenty of ventilation, which is important. So this here is open, that window is open, and then I have a fan here, which I'm going to turn on. Okay, so I just want to give you a bit of a basic impression of what Flintknapping is like, making stone tools. I'm very much a beginner still, so if you already know how to do Flintknapping, then this video is not for you. But if you have no clue whatsoever about how stone tools are made, if you think, you know, it's just, oh, you just take two rocks and you bash them together until you come up with a primitive tool, that's not quite it. I mean, that's how things started out. That's what early hominids did, you know, before we became modern humans, you know, Homo erectus and, you know, even earlier, Australopithecus. But, you know, actual early modern humans were a little more sophisticated. So you can't just take any kind of rock and bash them together. It has to be a particular type. So it needs to be something that fractures predictably, cleanly, that is a fairly homogeneous structure. You know, something like granite, for example, would not work. Basalt works. Flint, chert, obsidian, obviously. I've got some obsidian right here. And this stuff is basically volcanic glass. And there are some other types that you can use. Jasper, and, you know, a variety of materials. I'm not going to go too much into detail here, but this makes a huge difference for how the rock behaves. And as far as tools are concerned, right now I'm going with modern tools because they're simply easier for beginners. So this right here is a head of copper on a Delrin handle, and this is used instead of a hammerstone. So usually you just get a round rock, you know, of various shapes and various hardnesses. Use that. I also made 2 copper boppers myself. That's what these are called. So that's a copper cap, which you can get at a hardware store. This is simply filled with lead and then glued onto this one. This one here really annoys me because, as the glue said, it got a little crooked, which, if you're pedantic, that's really bothersome. So in order to show you how this works, I'm just going to grab this piece here. This happens to be novaculite. And so there are certain fundamentals that you need to be aware of when doing this. You can't just grab the thing and you just start hammering away at it and expect any results. There's a lot of thought that goes into this, and it really shows that Stone Age humans were not dumb whatsoever. You need to have a platform that you can strike. If I were to just strike the flat here, I would just snap the entire thing and I wouldn't get anywhere. So I need a platform at the correct kind of angle. Now this has to be less than a 90-degree angle. This one here is problematic because you can see this is close to 90 degrees there, and then it's also this overhang here. So this wouldn't travel very far. I'm not going to get ideal flakes from that. So what can I do about this? Well, first of all, I need to figure out where do I want to remove mass. So I want to remove, if I look at this, I want to remove this. I want to remove that overhang. I want to remove a bit of this here so that everything straightens out. So I need to plan ahead. What do I need to do? I don't know if you can see that in the video, but I can actually see the dust from this, and this is getting blown away by the fan. And this is very important. You don't want to do this in a closed space, breathing in all that dust, because that can lead to silicosis, which is a pretty serious condition. What happens there is that you get the rock dust in your lungs, and these small pieces of rock will cut away at your lung tissue, which then scars over, and then because the stuff is still in your lungs, it can't get out, it'll cut away at the scar tissue, which then scars over even more, and well, you get the idea. Your lungs get pretty fucked up, in short, to put it, well, not so mildly, really. Okay, so it really depends on how I strike this. It needs to be the right angle. If I just go straight down like this, nothing's gonna happen. What it needs is, it needs outward force to start a crack here and detach a flake, and it also needs a certain amount of downward force to make sure that it travels down so that you don't just get a super short flake. So I need to swing at an arc instead of straight down, and I need to also hit it far enough in, because if I just hit the very edge, this is only gonna crush it. I'm not gonna get a proper flake. If I hit it too far in, either nothing happens or I get this really thick piece that then tapers down. So let's see, where do I want to strike it? Right here. Yeah, and stuff like this. This is the main issue that I still have. I often get these step terminations here, which are really a hassle, because you can't just continue flaking into that, because that makes it worse. I'm going to try to get a nice long flake here. What I could do is, since I want to take this part off, I can remove some flakes here to move the platform down like that. And this should be pretty decent, yes. That looks a lot better. So now I can see if I can get a longer one here. There we go. That's what I wanted. So this is nice and long, and stuff like this can actually be used as a tool. So the thing is, the sharpness here comes from these edges breaking away. So this is not ground, this is fractured, and these edges can get a lot thinner than anything you can grind on metal, especially in case of obsidian. This stuff here is really sharp. I'm just going to show you here, because I need a hand pad anyway, so I have this piece of leather here. So here's the edge, and I can quite easily cut this leather here. As you can see, this does not take any effort. This is very sharp. The drawback of this is it's a very, very thin kind of feather edge. So this can break very easily. It's not durable. And this has a bit of an awkward shape here, but you could make a small arrowhead out of this. This is currently my main challenge. Thinking ahead far enough. Yeah, because you have to sometimes think multiple steps ahead to form a plan of how you want to get somewhere, how you want to prepare a platform, and also what I sometimes struggle with a little bit. You know what? This looks pretty good. I'm just going to strike that. What I sometimes also struggle a little bit with is being a little too eager just to hit things. Sometimes you gotta slow yourself down and examine You know, is this really a good platform to hit? You know, what do I want to accomplish? Instead of just hitting away at it. Now, there's something really, really satisfying about doing this. Like, you know, when you get the right kind of flake, it's incredibly satisfying. I don't know if it's in our DNA or something, but now this, I'm not quite happy with the angle there, but you know what? I'm gonna give it a try. This is all about the learning process, so I gotta figure out what certain things do, you know? I mean, I've actually learned this based on a book. There we go. Oh yeah, that's good. That's what I wanted. That's quite nice. So I've learned this based on a book on Flintknapping, which of course isn't as effective as learning from somebody who's experienced, but it's better than, you know, just trying to figure things out on your own without instruction at all. So this is the goal here. We want to thin this down, and you can see before it looked like this, and then that flake removed quite a bit of material and thinned it out, which is exactly what we want. Because you can't just take the rock and cut it in half. I mean, you can with modern tools, but, you know, power tools and whatnot. But, you know, with this technology here, you want to remove enough flakes so you thin this entire piece down and eventually get something that you can work with, like a knife blade or something. That's kind of a nice mini flake here. And stuff like this can also even be used. There are like tiny little stone tools called microliths that were used in Mesolithic times. That's between Paleolithic and Neolithic. And these can be put on the sides of an arrow shaft. So I now need to remove this bad area here somehow, which I'll have to do from the other side. Which in turn, this I will have to change the angle here. Come on. Gotta change the angle there and then come around. Oh yeah. That has a good chance of working. I hope. Okay, nice easy swing. And yeah, it removed some of that problem area, not all, but it's something. Okay, well, we've got this distinct pattern here from the flake scars. It's pretty neat. Okay, before I move on with this, I also want to show you the obsidian. I want to remove material on both sides really, but I want to drive a flake in that direction really. So this does not require a lot of force at all compared to some of the tougher types of rock. So I'm gonna raise this up some more. And then, well, this may either work or it may create a problem. We shall see about that. Okay, that drove a flake along here, which prepares that, or makes that platform more accessible. And here, so we've got a flake that snapped in half in the process, but traveled down quite nicely. And this gives me a new platform over here, which I can then prepare and hopefully drive a pretty nice flake off of. Okay, let's do that here. Get the right angle. Oh yeah, that is 100% what I wanted. So this is a nice thinning flake here. And this is how I'm gonna get somewhere eventually. Does you see how it removes the material there? So I'm gonna lose width, of course, from this. Not a whole lot, actually. It depends on how the platform is set up and everything. So if you look at the width here, this is actually not a lot lost. But the final piece will still be a lot smaller. And this is pretty damn sharp. This is something that you find out very quickly when knapping, just how sharp stuff is. In fact, just for funsies, you can see that I started with this recently. In fact, I think it was this piece right here that at one point I reached for. It was in the box. I reached for it and grabbed it, and it cut me right here quite easily. And that was just a top ridge right there. It wasn't even the side. And I also got marks here elsewhere. There's a cut, and you know, that's why I'm now wearing the glove. You know, experienced nappers do it without glove because they know exactly how to hold in everything so they don't cut themselves too much. They still cut themselves, but you know, I think kind of limited. One more flake here, and then I'll leave it at that for right now because I don't know yet how interested you guys really are in watching this. Now, I'm pretty sure you will be interested in tests of stone weapons / tools, which I'll get around to eventually. Like when I can make points, then I'll attach them to an atlatl dart and try that out, and also stone-tipped arrows, stone knives, you know, how well do they cut, how durable are they, etc., that sort of thing. I'm going to do that. But let me know if you find this kind of thing interesting to watch as well. Oh, come on. Yeah, that was a very short one. Do not like. Let's do. Gonna go the other direction here. That wasn't too hot. So sometimes, there you go. You gotta try a couple of times before you get something halfway decent. I still wasn't very happy with that, so I'm gonna take one more, and then we shall leave it at that for right now. Okay. Give me a good one. Well, it crumbled as it detached, but it was fairly decent. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think.